This is Guns, Knives, Watches. And I don't know this video is going to be anything other than basically me bashing a product. So if me bashing a product bothers you, then this is probably not the one for you. And of course, it's nighttime, so Guns, Knives, and Watches may come into fray. The caricature, not the individual. So here we go. We have 3 Moras, man, in front of the video thing, man. The video camera, dude. One of them is, of course, the Bushcraft Black, which is an iconic blade for those that I said want to go commune with nature. We have the Bushcraft SRT, which is a stainless steel with that and their serrated ass things, man. Let's talk the SRT right real quick and just kind of leave it out as something to compare this Mora Bushcraft against. Now, the Mora Bushcraft to me is an idiotic answer to a question that was never asked. And I'll get into why that is. First, it has a Cordura sheath, which is a common design, which is a piece of Cordura that has been lapped over and sewn, lapped over again, sewn again, and then finally lapped over there. So we have a long piece of Cordura that's been made into this sheath. We have a Molle compatible rear that's pretty easy to use if you have, since God gave a toad. We have some grommets at the top, grommets at the bottom, which are also usable. We have a single snap attachment, and then we have our blade. Well, let's move all this shit up. So, here we go. So, this Bushcraft, Mora Bushcraft, to me, is idiotic. Why is that? Because it defies everything that makes the Moras what they are. Number one, cost effective. These Mora Bushcraft Blacks you can find on the internet for around $35. You can find this SRT even in stainless steel for around that same amount. This thing is extremely expensive. It's around $50-some, which is, I guess, what the going price for the Bushcraft Black is on the internet. Of course, it's carbon steel, made in Sweden, and it's this, that, or the other. The length of the blade is its biggest asset, and it's also its biggest detriment. Because the problem is, you still have a similar handle to all the other Bushcraft Blacks and the SRT. You have a similar tang design, and you have a similar engineering from here back. Now, what the additional length in the blade is going to afford you is the ability to put more force on this point. Now, over the majority of this knife's use, that's not going to be an issue. And over, as I always speak of, the bell curve, the ones that are in the middle of that bell curve, it's not important. But unfortunately, the reality of the internet is that the outliers, the problems, are what always come to the forefront. When the tempering isn't exactly correct, when the steel isn't exactly correct, when things are not exactly correct, those are the things that you see. And unfortunately, I can't sit there and back something that gives the ability for a higher failure rate. Because when this knife or this knife have those imperfections, you don't have the same ability to place the same amount of torque in the same areas. Unfortunately, the longer blade, which is its biggest asset, is also its biggest detriment. So, you have seen failures of this knife on the intranet where it breaks right here. Really? Seriously? You have a long blade, which I enjoy. If it had a little different grind on it, and if it had a lot of different other features in it, it would be almost ideal. If it wasn't $55 at Sierra Trading Post, it would almost be ideal. But since I'm not using it as a chef knife, since it is not at 15 degrees per side grind, which is what the majority of the chef knives that I use are, and they're full flat grind with, of course, a 15 degree finished edge. This is not, we're not out cutting watermelons. We're not doing those type things. We're not sitting there working through things. We're not, using them to cut, da-da-da-da-da. Well, that's the problem with the knife. The length of the blade, unfortunately, gives this knife the ability to place more torque on basically a rat tail 3/4 tang. Sometimes unfortunately, sometimes my accent comes into all of this. And then we have the sheath. The sheath is utterly useless. It's a POS. Why? Because it lends itself to being so defective and out of touch. I'll show you this one part of this one sheath. See that slit right there? Can you see that? Where it's not connected right there? That was not for me. That was just before I ever got the knife. Is the grind as perfect? Are there scratches there? Do you see little imperfections? And could this knife be a second? Yes, it could. But that still doesn't resolve the issue of the length of the blade gives you the ability, same as the USMC fighting knife from K-Bar, gives you the ability to break that rat tail tang on that knife, because that knife is an infantry knife used for fighting soldiers. It is designed for hand-to-hand combat, driving it into the body of someone and killing them. This is, of course, a bushcraft knife. We have to take that into account because it is called the Pathfinder. Unfortunately, it misses the mark. If it had that blade and was, like some of the European Moras, full tang, where it came back through the handle, then we can argue about it. If the sheath was as well designed as the SRT Tactical I believe to be, then we can argue about it. Is it as good as the Mora Bushcraft Black? Then, and as affordable, then we can argue about it. But unfortunately, this knife misses all of those marks and then some. And in the end, only serves to take money out of your pocket. I don't believe the people that have reviewed this knife have, the majority of them, reviewed it honestly, nor in a forthcoming manner, nor have they evaluated it in such a way as to take its properties into account. I'm sorry for that, but I'm not responsible for that. This is Guns, Knives, and Watches. If you want to see the truth, no problem. If you want to see bullshit, you got a lot of places to see bullshit. And I will sell you 10 million kinds of bullshit if you want to buy it. But unfortunately, right now, I'm not in the fucking mood. Peace out.